The emergency alarm cut through the quiet hum of the exploration ship like a knife through silk. Maria Santos had been reviewing star charts in her quarters when the red lights began flashing. She pulled on her uniform jacket and ran toward the bridge, her boots echoing in the empty corridors of the night shift. The distress signal had been playing for 3 minutes when she arrived. It was unlike anything they had ever heard before. The sound was musical, almost like someone singing, but the computer systems were going crazy trying to decode it. Numbers and symbols flashed across every screen as the translation programs worked overtime. Tom Bradley looked up from his station with wide eyes. He was young for a communications officer, barely 25, but he had the best ears on the ship. "Captain, this isn't human. The signal is coming from coordinates about 6 hours away at full speed. The pattern is too complex for any known Earth language." Dr. Amy Foster pushed through the bridge doors, still wearing her sleep clothes under a lab coat. As the ship's expert on alien life, she had been woken up the moment they detected the signal. Her dark hair was messy, but her eyes were sharp and focused. "Have we established if it's actually a language? Could be natural phenomena, maybe some kind of space whale singing." Santos settled into her command chair and studied the data streaming across the main screen. After 30 years in deep space, she had learned to trust her instincts. Something about this signal felt desperate, like a parent calling for help. "How long has it been transmitting?" "Best guess about 8 hours," Bradley replied. "But it's getting weaker. Whatever is sending this might not last much longer." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft beeping of instruments. Santos had made first contact with 17 different human colonies. But this was different. This could be the moment humanity met another intelligent species. The weight of that possibility settled on her shoulders like a heavy blanket. "Set course for the signal source," she ordered. "Maximum safe speed and wake up everyone. If we're about to make history, the whole crew should be ready." The next 6 hours passed slowly. The ship pushed through space toward an unknown destination, while every department prepared for possibilities no human had ever faced before. The medical bay was stocked with supplies for unknown biology. The security team checked weapons they hoped they would never need to use. The science teams ran simulations and checked translation programs. Santos found herself pacing the bridge as they got closer. The signal had changed during their journey. What started as musical tones had become more urgent, more frantic. Even without translation, everyone could hear the fear in it. "Contact," announced Lieutenant Williams from the sensor station. "I'm reading a large vessel, about twice our size. But Captain, it's badly damaged. Multiple hull breaches and debris fields around it. Life signs are present but weak." The main screen flickered to life, showing them their first look at an alien spacecraft. It was beautiful in a way that human ships never were. Where human engineering focused on function and durability, this vessel looked like it had been grown, rather than built. Organic curves flowed along its hull and crystalline structures caught the light of distant stars. But now those elegant lines were broken and twisted. Atmosphere was bleeding out into space through dozens of holes in the hull. "My God," whispered Foster. "It's incredible. The design principles are completely different from ours. This suggests a species that thinks about space travel in ways we never considered." The musical tones from the distress signal suddenly shifted. The translation computer beeped and words began appearing on their screens. The voice that came through the speakers was clearly not human, but the desperation in it was universal. "Please, help. Young ones trapped. Predators loose on ship. Cannot reach them. Time running short." Santos felt her heart skip a beat. Children. Alien children were in danger, and their ship was the only hope. She activated the communication system and spoke slowly and clearly. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the human exploration vessel Harmony's Edge. We received your distress call. Can you tell us more about your situation?" The response came faster this time as the translation system learned the new language. "I am Keeper Nix of the research vessel Starweave. We were studying your species from a distance when raiders attacked us. They brought hunting creatures with them. My crew was taken, but one young one still hides. The beasts search for her now." Williams looked up from his sensors with a grim expression. "Captain, I'm reading multiple large life forms moving through that ship. They're definitely hunting something, and there's one small signature that keeps moving, trying to stay away from the others. Foster was already at her station, analyzing the biological data they were receiving. The predators are large, maybe 8 feet tall, heavily muscled and armed with natural weapons, but the small signature, that has to be the child. It's trying to stay hidden, but it's trapped in one section of the ship. Santos looked around at her crew. Each face reflected the same mixture of excitement and terror. They were about to attempt the first rescue of an alien child in human history. If they succeeded, it would change everything. If they failed, both species might never get another chance to meet peacefully. "Keeper Nix," Santos said into the communication system. "We're coming to help. Can you guide us to where the child is hiding?" There was a long pause before the alien responded. When the answer came, it was filled with something that sounded like amazement. "You would risk your lives for a young one who is not of your species? This is not how most species behave." Santos thought about her own daughter, safe at home on Earth. She thought about every human child she had ever known, and how any adult would fight to protect them. "Yes, we would. Every child deserves to be safe no matter where they come from." "Then you truly are the species we hoped you would be," came the reply. "But hurry. The hunters grow closer, and my little Lynn grows tired from hiding. She cannot run much longer." Santos turned to her crew. "Boarding party in 10 minutes, full environmental suits and emergency medical supplies. We're going to bring that child home." The airlock sealed behind them with a soft hiss. Maria Santos checked her weapon one more time before stepping into the alien vessel. The boarding party was small but skilled. Tom Bradley carried the communication equipment to stay in contact with Keeper Nix. Dr. Foster brought medical supplies for both human and alien injuries. Security Chief Ray Williams held his rifle ready, scanning for threats. The first thing that struck them was how different everything felt. Human ships were built with straight lines and right angles, designed for efficiency and easy maintenance. This vessel felt alive. The walls curved in gentle arcs, and soft light pulsed through what looked like veins running along the ceiling. The floor gave slightly under their boots, like walking on living tissue. "The biosignatures are stronger here," Foster reported, checking her scanner. "This ship isn't just controlled by biological systems, it is biological. The hull, the corridors, even the air recycling system. It's more like a giant organism than a spacecraft." Bradley's communication unit crackled as Keeper Nix's voice came through. "You are inside." "Good. The young one, Lynn, is in the botanical research section 3 levels down. But the hunters have found her scent trail. They moved to surround her hiding place." Williams studied his motion detector, frowning at the readings. 4 large contacts moving in formation. They're coordinating their approach like a pack of wolves, smart and deadly. "And there's something else, Captain. These things are big. 8 feet tall at least, probably weighing close to 600 pounds each." They moved quickly through corridors that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Strange symbols glowed along the walls, probably some kind of alien writing or navigation system. The air was breathable but carried unfamiliar scents like flowers mixed with something metallic. As they descended deeper into the ship, they began to see signs of the attack. Scorch marks from energy weapons had burned black patches into the living walls. Debris from broken equipment littered the floor. In some places, dark stains suggested that not everyone had escaped the raiders. "The botanical section is just ahead," Nix's voice guided them. "But be careful. The hunters use the garden shadows to hide. They are creatures bred for killing, brought by the raiders to terrorize their victims before capture." They reached a massive door that had been torn partly open, its biomechanical seals hanging in tatters. Beyond it lay the most beautiful and terrifying place any of them had ever seen. The botanical section stretched out like a vast greenhouse, filled with plants that seemed to come from a dozen different worlds. Crystalline trees grew toward the ceiling, their branches creating complex patterns of light and shadow. Phosphorescent, flowers provided pools of blue and green illumination, while vines with silver leaves climbed the walls like living metal. The air here was thick with oxygen and carried the scent of growing things. And somewhere in this alien garden, a child was hiding from monsters. Bradley held up his scanner, trying to locate the life signs. I'm getting readings from all over this place. The plants themselves are interfering with the sensors. It's like trying to find someone in a forest where every tree is alive and thinking. That's when they heard it. A soft whimper, quickly cut off, coming from a cluster of tall flowers near the center of the garden. Foster pointed toward the sound. There, between those phosphorescent blooms. But Williams was looking in the opposite direction, his rifle raised. Contact. 200 meters, moving along the left wall. It's big and it's hunting. The first predator stepped into view like something from humanity's worst nightmares. 8 feet tall and covered in chitinous armor that gleamed like black metal. 6 legs ending in claws designed for gripping and tearing. Its head was a mass of sensory organs surrounding a mouth full of teeth that had evolved for nothing but killing prey. When it saw the humans, the creature paused. Its head tilted to one side as it studied these new scents and shapes. After a moment, it made a sound that was almost like laughter. To a creature that had spent its life terrorizing helpless victims, these small, soft beings represented no threat at all. Oh no, Foster whispered, staring at the predator with scientific fascination despite her fear. Look at the muscle development, the sensory array. This thing was designed by evolution to be the perfect hunter. Speed, strength, intelligence, and weaponry all in one package. Santos stepped forward, placing herself between the monster and the area where they had heard the child. The predator's attention focused on her immediately. It rose to its full height and let out a roar that made their bones vibrate and their teeth ache. From the flowers came a small voice speaking accented English. Don't touch the blue ones. They make you sick if you touch them. The other ones are safe. The alien child, Lynn, was trying to help them even while hiding for her life. The predator heard her voice and began stalking toward the phosphorescent blooms. Its claws clicked against the biodeck with each step, and its sensory organs were locked onto the area where she was hiding. Williams raised his rifle and took aim, but Santos held up a hand to stop him. Wait, she said quietly. Let me try something first. She looked directly at the creature and spoke in a clear, firm voice. You want her? You come through me first. The predator stopped moving. For just a moment, it seemed confused. In its experience, prey animals ran when confronted by predators. They didn't stand their ground and issue challenges. Its head tilted again as it tried to understand this new behavior. Then it decided that removing this small obstacle would be simple enough. The creature dropped into a hunting crouch, preparing to launch itself forward and tear the human apart, with one sweep of its massive claws. But as it prepared to attack, something changed in the garden around them. The plants seemed to sense danger and began glowing brighter. The crystalline trees caught and reflected the light, creating an almost magical atmosphere. And from somewhere in that beautiful, dangerous space came the sound of another predator approaching. This new sound was different from the alien hunter's clicking claws. It was the sound of something moving through ventilation ducts with purpose and speed. Something that had caught the scent of threatened children and had decided to investigate. Williams looked up at the ceiling with surprise. Captain, that's coming from our ship. Something got loose from the cargo bay. Santos smiled grimly as she kept her eyes locked on the alien predator in front of her. Not something that got loose, Tom. Something I let loose. And it's about to show this thing what Earth predators are really like. The ceiling above them exploded in a shower of biomaterial and metal fragments. Something small and furry dropped into the garden like a missile, landing between the humans and the towering predator with a solid thump. For a moment, everything in the botanical section went completely silent. Dr. Foster stared at the new arrival in disbelief. That's a honey badger. The creature that had just made such a dramatic entrance was, by any reasonable measure, not particularly impressive. About 3 feet long with coarse gray and black fur, and a distinctive white stripe down its back. It weighed maybe 30 pounds and stood less than a foot tall at the shoulder. Compared to the 8-foot-tall alien monster it now faced, it looked like a house cat confronting a dragon. Not just any honey badger, Santos corrected. never taking her eyes off the alien predator. "That's Mira. She's been with us for 3 years, ever since the genetics lab on Europa created her as part of the enhanced animal program. Military conditioning, improved intelligence, and the natural fearlessness that makes honey badgers the most dangerous predators on Earth." The alien hunter looked down at this small Earth creature with what might have been amusement. Its sensory organs studied Mira carefully, trying to understand what threat such a tiny animal could possibly pose. After a moment, it made that laughing sound again and prepared to brush aside this insignificant obstacle. Mira looked up at the towering monster. She was completely unimpressed. The alien predator struck first, moving with the lightning speed that had made its species the terror of a dozen star systems. Its massive claws swept down to tear the small Earth animal in half, expecting to clear the way to its real prey in a single motion. But Mira was no longer there. She had moved with fluid grace, flowing around the attack like water finding its way around a rock. One moment she was directly in front of the predator, the next she was climbing up its armored leg with her claws extended. The creature's chitinous plates, which had evolved to deflect the weapons of its homeworld, might as well have been made of paper. The predator's roar of triumph turned into a shriek of pain and confusion as Mira reached its first joint and began doing what honey badgers do best. She went for the soft spots, the vulnerable areas where even the thickest armor had gaps. Her claws and teeth found nerve clusters and vital connections with surgical precision. Williams lowered his rifle, watching, in amazement as the small Earth creature systematically dismantled something that could have torn apart his entire security team. She's not just attacking randomly, she knows exactly where to hit for maximum damage. Foster pulled out her medical scanner, trying to understand what she was seeing. The predator's nervous system is completely different from Earth animals, but somehow she's figured out its weak points in seconds. It's like she has an instinctive understanding of alien biology. The first predator stumbled and crashed into a cluster of crystalline trees. Mira still attached to its back like a furry engine of destruction. Dark fluid that might have been blood was leaking from a dozen wounds. The creature tried to reach back and grab its tormentor, but Mira was always one step ahead, moving to new targets before the alien could react. A second predator emerged from the shadows on the far side of the garden, drawn by its packmates' distress calls. This one had learned from watching the first creature's mistake. Instead of trying to swat Mira like an insect, it kept its distance and used its reach advantage, trying to corner her with sweeping attacks from its claws. Mira studied the new tactics for exactly 3 seconds. Then she grabbed one of the phosphorescent flowers in her teeth, bit down to release its toxic sap, and spit the glowing liquid directly into the predator's sensory cluster. The creature screamed and clawed at its own face, temporarily blinded by the alien plant toxin. Mira used the distraction to leap onto its back and scrambled toward the base of its skull, looking for the nerve center that would shut down its motor functions. "Incredible," Foster breathed, watching the honey badger work. "She's using the environment as a weapon, and that flower Lynn warned us it was dangerous. Mira must have been listening and figured out how to weaponize it." From the phosphorescent blooms came the alien child's voice, filled with wonder and disbelief. "She's a great hunter, a real great hunter like in the old stories. I never thought I would see one." A third predator appeared at the garden's entrance, but when it saw what had happened to its packmates, it made a different choice. The creature that had terrorized entire star systems took one look at the small Earth animal and decided it had somewhere else to be. It turned and fled, crashing through biobarriers in its haste to escape. Mira finished with the second predator, which collapsed next to the first one, both creatures no longer a threat to anyone. She trotted over to the cluster of flowers where Lynn was hiding, sniffing the air to make sure the child was unharmed. The alien girl emerged slowly from her hiding place. She was small, probably about 7 years old in human terms, with scaled skin that shimmered in the garden's light and large eyes that reflected the phosphorescent glow. She looked almost human, but there were subtle differences that marked her as something wonderful and new. "Hello, Great Hunter," Lynn said formally, speaking to Mira as if greeting royalty. "Thank you for protecting me." Mira examined the child, carefully decided she smelled acceptable, and then found a comfortable spot in a patch of artificial sunlight. She began grooming her fur with complete indifference to the carnage around them, as if fighting alien monsters was just another part of her daily routine. Santos activated her communication unit. "Keeper Nix, this is Captain Santos. The child is safe. The predators have been neutralized." The response came immediately, filled with amazement and disbelief. "Impossible. No single creature can defeat a hunting pack of that species. They are the terror of 12 star systems. What manner of great hunter do you carry on your vessel?" Santos looked at Mira, who had curled up for a nap in the warm, artificial sunlight. The honey badger's fur was barely mussed despite having just fought 3 monsters that could have destroyed a small army. "Just a little girl from Earth who doesn't like bullies," Santos replied, "and who thinks every child in the galaxy deserves to be protected." 3 days later, the medical bay of the Harmony's Edge had become the strangest nursery in human history. Lynn sat cross-legged on one of the examination tables, carefully braiding colorful strings that Dr. Foster had given her. Beside her, Mira was sprawled across a heating pad, allowing the alien child to pet her fur while she dozed. Foster looked up from her medical scanner with amazement. "Her biology is remarkably similar to ours. She can eat most of our foods, breathe our air without assistance, and her sleep cycle is almost identical to human children her age. It's as if our species were designed to be compatible." Santos stood near the observation window, watching the unlikely pair through the glass. In just 3 days, Lynn had learned enough English to carry on basic conversations, and her curiosity about everything human was endless. She wanted to know about Earth, about families, about schools, and especially about animals like Mira. "Any word from Keeper Nix about her ship?" Santos asked Williams, who was monitoring communications from his portable unit. "The repairs are going better than expected," Williams reported. "Our engineering teams are working with their biotechnicians to patch the hull breaches, but Nick says it will be at least 2 weeks before the vessel is spaceworthy again. The living systems take time to heal properly." Through the intercom, they could hear Lynn talking to Mira in her own language, a musical series of tones that sounded like wind chimes. The honey badger's ears twitched as if she was actually listening, though she never opened her eyes. Foster made notes on her tablet as she observed the interaction. Lynn has been teaching Mira words in her native language, and somehow Mira seems to understand basic commands. It's remarkable how quickly they've bonded. In xenobiological terms, this kind of cross-species adoption is almost unheard of. The medical bay door opened and Tom Bradley entered carrying a small device that beeped softly. "Captain, we've got an incoming transmission from Earth Command, Priority 1. They want a full report on the first contact situation." Santos sighed. She had been dreading this moment. Earth's bureaucrats would want to study every aspect of what had happened, including Lynn. The idea of subjecting the child to endless examinations and tests made her stomach turn. "Patch it through to my ready room," she ordered. "And Tom, keep monitoring the local space channels. I want to know if any more raiders are heading this way." As she left the medical bay, Santos could hear Lynn giggling as Mira finally woke up and began investigating the braided strings. The sound was universal, the laughter of a child at play, regardless of what planet she came from. An hour later, Santos emerged from her ready room looking tired and frustrated. The conversation with Earth Command had gone exactly as she expected. They wanted Lynn brought back to Earth for study. They wanted detailed reports on alien technology. They wanted to know everything about the honey badger's enhanced abilities and how they might be replicated. What they didn't seem to care about was that Lynn was a frightened child who had lost her entire crew family and was now clinging to the first beings who had shown her kindness. Foster looked up as Santos returned to the medical bay. "How did it go with the brass?" "About as well as you'd expect," Santos replied grimly. "They want us to return to Earth immediately with Lynn for comprehensive analysis and cultural integration. They're talking about her like she's a specimen instead of a little girl." Lynn looked up from her string braiding, sensing the adult's distress even though she hadn't understood all the words. "Is something wrong? Did I do something bad?" "No, sweetheart," Foster said quickly, kneeling down to Lynn's eye level. "You haven't done anything wrong. The adults are just trying to figure out what's best for everyone. Mira opened one eye and looked at Santos with what could only be described as disapproval. The honey badger had claimed Lynn as part of her territory to protect, and she clearly didn't like the idea of anyone taking the child away. "Captain," Williams said quietly, "I've been monitoring the communications between our ship and Keeper Nix's vessel. Lynn isn't just any child. According to Nix, she's the daughter of their ship's former captain, who died in the Raider attack. Lynn was being trained as the next generation of deep space explorers. She's an orphan now with no family to return to on their home world." Santos felt something twist in her chest. An orphaned child, lost between the stars, with nowhere to go. It reminded her too much of her own daughter, and how she would want someone to care for her if the worst ever happened. "There's something else," Williams continued. "I've been analyzing the Raider attack patterns. This wasn't random. They've been specifically targeting research vessels, especially ones studying newly discovered species. Earth ships are going to be prime targets now that word gets out about first contact." Foster stood up, a determined look in her eyes. "Captain, I have an idea. It's unconventional, but it might solve several problems at once. I'm listening. What if we don't go back to Earth right away? What if we continue our exploration mission, but with Lynn and Nix as cultural liaisons? Lynn could learn about human customs while teaching us about her people, and having Mira along means we're better protected against raiders." Santos looked through the observation window again. Lynn was now trying to teach Mira how to braid strings, while the honey badger pretended to be interested for the child's sake. It was a picture of interspecies cooperation that would have been impossible just a week ago. "The bureaucrats won't like it," she said slowly. "The bureaucrats aren't out here facing raiders and trying to make first contact work," Foster replied. "We are. And sometimes the people in the field have to make decisions based on what's actually happening, not what looks good in a report." Williams checked his scanner. "Captain, we're getting another signal. Long range, but it's definitely alien, different from Nix's people. If we're going to continue making contact with new species, having Lynn with us could be invaluable. She might be able to help with communication and cultural understanding." Santos made her decision. She activated the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We're going to continue our exploration mission with some new crew members. Keeper Nix and Lynn will be joining us as cultural liaisons, and Mira will continue in her role as ship security specialist." She paused, thinking about the implications of what she was about to say next. "We're going to show the galaxy what happens when humans make family with other species, and if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with our honey badger." Through the medical bay window, she could see Lynn clap her hands in delight at the news. Mira opened both eyes and stretched as if preparing for whatever adventures lay ahead. The Harmony's Edge had just become the first truly interspecies vessel in human history, and somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, other civilizations were about to learn what it meant when Earth adopted their children. 2 years had passed since the incident aboard the Starweave, and the ripple effects were still spreading across the galaxy. David Kim stood before the assembled representatives of 43 different species in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. As Earth's first official ambassador, he was about to address the most important gathering in galactic history. The hall itself was a marvel of interspecies cooperation. Each section was designed to accommodate different atmospheric and gravitational needs. Crystalline beings from the Keth worlds hung in energy suspension fields. Aquatic delegates from the water worlds floated in mobile environment suits. Gas-based life forms swirled in containment vessels that let their thoughts translate into visible colors. But all attention was focused on the small viewing platform where two unusual figures sat together. Lynn, now 9 years old, wore a specially designed spacesuit that combined human and sectar technology. Beside her, Mira lounged in a climate-controlled travel container, completely indifferent to being the center of galactic attention. "Honored delegates," Kim began, his words translated into 43 different languages and communication methods. "We are here to address what many have called the Earth problem. Some of you fear humans because of our military capabilities. Others worry about our expansion into space. But I think you're all missing the real point." A delegate from the Vorthon Empire beings of pure energy, flickered with colors that translated as concern. Ambassador Kim, your species defeated legendary predators with a single small creature. Our military analysts calculate that Earth must have weapons we cannot comprehend. This makes you dangerous. Kim smiled and gestured toward the viewing platform. Our most dangerous weapon is sitting right there, playing with an alien child. And yes, Mira is dangerous, but not to anyone who doesn't threaten children. The massive crystalline form of a Keth representative chimed with harmonics of confusion. Your logic is unclear. How does protecting young ones of other species benefit your own survival? Before Kim could answer, a new voice entered the discussion. Keeper Nix had arrived from her restored ship, now serving as the first Sectar ambassador to the Galactic Council. Her scaled skin caught the chamber's lights as she addressed the assembly. 2 years ago, my people encountered humans for the first time when raiders attacked our research vessel, she said. The humans risked their lives to save one Sectar child they had never met. Since then, Lin has lived aboard their ship, learning their ways while teaching them ours. I have observed their behavior closely. She paused, looking directly at the energy being who had questioned Kim. Humans do not fight to conquer territory or gather resources. They fight to protect what they consider family, and their definition of family includes any child of any species they encounter. A new delegate entered the discussion. The eldest of the Weaver Collective rarely spoke in council sessions, but when they did, everyone listened. Their voice carried the weight of thousands of years of observation. We have been monitoring human expansion for the past 2 years, the ancient being intoned. Every ship that ventures into space carries enhanced predators from their homeworld. Honey badgers, wolverines, and other creatures that show no fear when defending young ones. But more importantly, every human crew treats alien children as if they were their own offspring. Kim activated a holographic display showing space routes throughout the local galaxy. In the past 2 years, human vessels have made contact with 18 different species. In every case where children were present, those children were offered protection, education, and adoption into human family units, if they had no other options. The display showed dozens of small lights, each representing a human ship with mixed crews. We now have vessels crewed by humans, Sectar, Keth younglings, and members of 6 other species, all working together, all protecting each other's young ones. A delegate from the Terran ocean worlds, a being that looked like a living tide pool, rippled with curiosity. But what do humans gain from this arrangement? Surely there must be some advantage you seek. Kim was quiet for a moment, thinking of his own children back on Earth. We gain the knowledge that the galaxy is safe for all children to grow up in. That's not a small thing. That's everything. On the viewing platform, Lin was teaching Mira a new game she had learned from some Keth children they had met the previous month. The honey badger was terrible at it but tolerated the child's attention with infinite patience. The Vorthon delegate flickered again, this time with colors that suggested deeper thought. Our military forces have encountered human vessels in contested space. When we approached with aggressive intentions, the creatures aboard their ships became unreasonably hostile. But when we sent diplomatic missions, including young ones in training, the same creatures were gentle and protective. That's exactly right, Kim confirmed. Human protection extends to anyone who isn't a threat to children. But if you threaten a child, any child, you'll discover why honey badgers are the most feared predators on Earth. The eldest spoke again, their ancient voice carrying new understanding. The implications are significant. Humans have not joined galactic civilization. They have appointed themselves as its guardians. This changes the fundamental balance of power in ways we are still calculating. Kim nodded. The galaxy had changed forever, though it would take years for everyone to understand just how much. 3 months after the council session, the first Galactic Protection Accord was signed by 37 species. The document was simple, containing only 2 main principles. First, the young of any species were under the protection of Earth and its allies. Second, Any violation of the first principle would result in immediate intervention by human vessels and their enhanced predator crews. Compliance was immediate and universal. The raider fleets that had terrorized peaceful systems for generations simply vanished. Some disbanded voluntarily when they learned about Earth's protection policies. Others made the mistake of testing human resolve and discovered what happened when honey badgers decided something was a threat to children. Lynn continued to grow up aboard the Harmony's Edge, now serving as humanity's youngest cultural ambassador. She spoke 12 languages fluently and could communicate basic concepts in 6 more. Her mixed crew of humans, sectar, and other species had become the model for interspecies cooperation that other vessels tried to copy. Mira had become something of a legend herself. Stories about the small Earth predator who defeated hunting packs spread throughout the galaxy. Other species began requesting honey badgers for their own vessels, not understanding that the creatures were only gentle with those who protected children. But perhaps the most important change was the simplest one. Children from dozens of worlds now played together in space stations and planetary colonies. They learned each other's languages, shared each other's games, and grew up thinking that interspecies friendship was the most natural thing in the universe. The honey badger had indeed changed the galaxy, not through conquest or fear, but by demonstrating the lengths to which humans would go to protect the innocent. It was the beginning of an era when the young of any species could sleep safely under the protection of small, determined creatures from a blue world called Earth. And in the vast darkness between stars, the universe had become a safer place for everyone's children. Now has universal child protection. Any species that harms young ones will answer to Earth and our allies. But any species that protects children will find humans ready to stand beside them against any threat. A soft chime indicated that new data was being transmitted to all delegates. The information showed shipping routes, crime statistics, and safety reports from across human-patrolled space. Piracy in human-protected systems has dropped by 97%, Kim announced. Slave raids have stopped completely in areas where human vessels patrol, and educational exchange programs have increased interspecies cooperation to levels never before recorded. Lynn looked up from her game and spoke into the chamber's translation system. Her voice, still that of a child but carrying surprising wisdom, addressed the most powerful beings in the galaxy. My birth family died protecting me from bad people who wanted to hurt children, she said simply. My human family found me and kept me safe. Mira decided I was worth protecting even though I'm not the same species as her. Now I have 2 families and friends from dozens of worlds. Isn't that better than everyone being afraid of each other? The chamber fell completely silent as delegates processed the words of a 9-year-old who had become the living symbol of interspecies cooperation. Finally, the Keth representative chimed with new harmonics. The child speaks wisdom. If protecting the young leads to such cooperation, perhaps we have been thinking about galactic politics in the wrong way. Kim smiled as he delivered his final statement. The age of conquest and territorial expansion is over. The age of family has begun. Earth's children now include everyone, and Earth's children are protected by creatures that don't understand the concept of surrender. As the council session ended, delegates began approaching the viewing platform to meet Lynn and observe Mira. The honey badger tolerated the attention as long as no one made sudden movements near the child. She had appointed herself guardian of not just Lynn, but of the entire concept of interspecies childhood.